Hey, Lashonda. What the hell is that about?
Start the new year off. The first show of the new year.
Yeah, right.
Off with a funny face. Hi,
Hi,
Angela. I'm
Lashonda.
Lashonda.
And I'm Angela, and we are a Black woman and a white woman walk into a bar. And thank you for joining us on is this our 8th episode? I think this is our 8th episode. Girl, we've been doing this we've been doing this for 2 months.
That's a solid 2 months.
We're gonna have to have a party. We're gonna have to figure out what anniversary we want to celebrate.
Yeah.
I
think we should do it like marriages do, like at the 5-year mark and maybe at the 10-year mark. But we should only start at the 10-year mark, because you do 5 of something, it's like, okay. But you do 10? Do
you ever find people like get freaked out about the 10s and the decades and birthdays? For me, it's always the 5s. Like turning 30 was no big deal. Turning 25 was traumatic. 35 was traumatic. 40 was no big deal. I'm going to stop now. but I always find that because by the time I get to the 10 one, like 30 or 40, I've been thinking about it for so long. It doesn't seem, but when you get to the 5, it's like, oh shit, I'm halfway there.
As you're a resident 25-year-old, no comment.
And with that, I'm doing the toast this week. I'm doing the cocktail and the toast. And Lashonda keeping us on track. And and I am going to refresh the timer. Okay, 7:40. So I am sharing a limoncello, which my friend John Weber, who's getting named here, called out on their show, brought over for me as a Christmas gift. So, and I discovered that limoncello is, not to take anything away from Mr. Weber, but basically it's like 3 ingredients. It's vodka, lemons, and sugar. But you had a comment about that, Lashonda.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I have a friend. I know a guy. And his wife, actually, that have made this stuff at home, but they basically use like Everclear, like the cheapest, most vodka they can find, because they're just gonna throw all this lemon and sugar in there anyway, and probably some other things, because they're not known to do these things simply. Like they made an Amaro a couple of years back. So,
well, and on that note, I want to say that I am totally I like my sipping drinks. Like I love my single malt scotches and I love my bourbon and I love my tequila. But when you're making a cocktail, if you're making a margarita, you don't put the expensive shit in there.
No, you don't.
No, it's just a waste. It's a waste. And I'm going to ask you before we do our toast, what you're drinking this evening.
This is Toki Whiskey. It is a part Toki. Okay. Here's the bottle. It's part of the there's a group of distilleries in Japan called Suntory, and this is one of their lovely whiskeys. It's one of the more low-end brands. I guess not low-end, but it's not Hibiki, which is what most people are familiar with, because it's like an $80 bottle of whiskey. I like Hibiki, but I also like Toki. It's really nice. They are a fantastic distillery. They make great things. And so, you know, folks from Suntory, you see us on Instagram, holler.
Look at you. All right. And so for our toast today, thank you. I need to learn more about, I'm kind of like limited, and like I know a lot about the things that I like. I know a lot about bourbon. I know a lot about tequila, but I don't know much about whiskey. I know bourbon is a whiskey. Because it's made from grain. But yeah, so I appreciate your sharing your knowledge.
Absolutely. Cheers.
So I'm going to do the toast tonight. And so for toast, I decided that I want to toast to the healthcare workers out there, because I feel like they got all kinds of attention up front, which was awesome. They deserve it. I was going up on my rooftop. I have rooftop access in my building. every day at 7 to applaud them. And then that kind of dropped off. And because people got tired, and we all get tired of being reminded of this. But you know what? These guys still are showing up. And in my mind, that's the definition of a hero. So, they're just doing their job. They're showing up every day, and they're still, it has not gotten easier for them. It's gotten harder. And the hospitals are still full, and it's getting scary as things are spiking. And there's the simple thing that we can do to make their lives easier. And that's excuse me for swearing, but wear your fucking mask, people. Like, I'm just over this shit. Wear your fucking mask. Whether you believe in it or not, wear your fucking mask, because you can't prove that it doesn't help. And it's what we've got right now. So it's not going to kill you. It's not comfortable. I don't like them, but it doesn't fucking kill you. So wear your goddamn fucking mask. Thank you for letting me rant, Lashonda. So
I agree wholeheartedly.
So here is our toast to healthcare workers.
Cheers.
Our heroes. Cheers. Cheers. And here's to you, my friend.
Definitely to you as well. Yeah, it's that people have come up with all sorts of reasons not to wear masks. They now, of course, because people are smart, they realize that people who, especially even sometimes if you have a filter in your mask, if you sweat just enough around here, then it causes all sorts of other problems other than like contact dermatitis and mask knee and those sorts of things. So now they have these 3D printed silicone cages that you can put over your face that keeps the fabric off of
right.
your
So
mouth.
You're not, because that's the problem I have, is I'm inhaling my mask all the time. Drives me crazy.
I actually have filters that I put in mine, and it sort of allows the centerpiece of the mask to pucker a little bit more, but still stays tight around the nose and around the face and under the chin. Yeah. So, there are solutions to the I don't wear a mask because problem. Just go get a cage. You might be saving your own life. You might be saving someone else's life.
That's the thing too that bugs me about it, is if you don't like it and you don't believe in it, I mean, are you really sure enough that you're willing, not just to risk your own life, but you're willing to risk somebody else's life because you don't believe the science? I mean, this is a moving target. We know that. This is a new virus. We don't have all the information.
Right.
But if there's something that you can do that even if it's just helps a little bit and you can do it, just do it. I mean, this is not rocket science. I don't understand why this is so complicated. This is not about politics. This is about doing common sense things, like you don't sneeze on somebody if you got a cold. You wash your hands. I mean, just like common sense stuff. So to do this one goddamn thing. And I'm over this nonsense about the mask. I'm just over it. I just find it so frustrating. But
the washing the hands thing is new to a lot of people. You hear all these some people talking about how dry their hands are because they're Sweetie, you haven't been washing your hands when you come home, when you come in from outside. You haven't been washing your hands?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That explains. All right. So
Barry's thoughts in whiskey glass.
So we decided that we're going to spend this episode looking back over the year past, and we're not going to focus on the shitty stuff because I think we all know what that is. Yeah. We're going to look back and we're going to look at the things that we are grateful for over the past year, and then move into our intentions. If we have time, we'll talk about some intentions for this year that we're in. And just to give you guys a heads up, we're going to ask you, because we like doing that, because we just do. We're going to ask you to send us your things that you're grateful for over the past year. So be thinking about that. We'll put it in the comments, and we're going to be asking you to submit those. So anyway, I didn't plan this out. I kind of figured I would just be in the moment with it. So if you have one that you want to start with, that would be awesome. I don't want me to put you on the spot.
Man, No. I mean, listen to me. One of the things that allowed me to quit my job in New York and move to a brand new city with no job was restructuring my day, right? And a huge part of that is a very healthy gratitude practice. And by practice, I mean sitting down every day to literally count the things that I am grateful for. Okay. So because of that, yeah, those things are at the front of my mind. I'm grateful that I live in a city that allows me to live in an apartment alone. Like, I love that, that I'm not having to worry about walking on eggshells with another person around because we're both around way too much and can't do anything about it. I'm grateful for that. And that was my life most of the time in New York City. I was always in a co-housing situation, and I'm grateful that I don't do that now. I'm so grateful that I don't do that now, because I can literally just cry when I want to, not have to explain. I can take a nap when I need to, not worry about outside noises. And I can literally just be alone with my thoughts and sort out the ones that need to stop recurring. Like, what if you die? Don't do that. Like, that's your brain doing that mess. Don't do that to yourself. You know, things like that. So I'm mostly, firstly and foremostly, not really firstly and foremostly, but I'm very grateful to live by myself.
On that note, I am grateful for you. And the reason that I say that is because when you were talking about the stuff that you do, you know, in every day as a practice, one of the things that I love about my friendship with you is we do that for each other. Like, we remind each other, because you can't be strong all the time, you know.
No, you can't.
And you and I have gone back and forth for years in terms of, like, who's the strong one, you know, who's the one saying, you know, buck up, try this, I love you, you know, you can do it, kind of cheerleading. And we go back and forth with each other. And you went through such a challenge. I have so much respect for you when you moved to Atlanta. You worked so hard to get yourself situated there and create a better situation for yourself. And then you did that. And then I was going through a tough time, and you reminded me. You were like, don't forget, you got to, you know, do every day. You got to move around. You got to exercise. You got to pray. You got to, you know, practice your gratitude. You got to do this stuff every day. And you can do this. And so when you said that to me, I was like, oh yeah, like, I know this stuff, but we forget, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really grateful for you and I'm grateful for our friendship that we're able to do that for each other. So that's awesome.
I'm definitely grateful for you as well. I mean, you know, friendships, yes. You are one of my oldest friends.
Because I'm old. You
I
know
didn't
me,
say that. I have friends older than you, though. I definitely have friends older than you.
That makes me feel good.
I have friends older than me too, and who knows, I might be 105 in August. Anyway, I like to throw that out there every so often, tell people I'm a 100-year-old vampire. But yeah, you know, it's an important thing, and I feel like we know each other well enough to be able to provide the kick in the pants without anyone going, that's easy for you to say. You know what I mean? That's not a part of our conversation anymore. Whereas I stutter with other people.
Right.
If I feel like they need encouragement, I wait for them to ask me for that, because everybody's in a different place with these things and with those relationships.
That's a tough call. I mean, I have a friend who is one of my best friends, and he received a very difficult diagnosis several years ago. And I have had that experience. For those of you who don't know, I have Parkinson's. I was diagnosed in 2001. And we were talking, I was talking on the phone with him, and I was really concerned because he was he was really struggling with it. And I remember at one point, and I was like literally on the phone with him like every day for a week, just like 4 or 5 times a day, because I was really concerned. And at one point, I have the voice that I get in my head, you know, Shauna knows about, she hears about it all the time, told me, this is what you need to say to him. And I was like, no, I'm not saying that, but I don't know. So I did. I said, okay, I'm gonna tell you something. I don't expect you to believe me. I mean, I don't expect you to believe me, but I'm asking you to trust me. I said, you will find blessings in this. And there's this dead silence on plus a phone. And I was like, oh no, he's gonna hang up. He's gonna tell me to fuck off. He's gonna hang up on me. I've been so good about not using the F word, but since I started earlier, I'm just gonna continue with it. There's this dead silence. And he told me later, he said, I was so ready to hang up on you. And if it had been anybody else, I would have. But he said, our friendship, I knew I needed to listen to you. And he said through very gritted teeth, I don't see how this can possibly be good for my life. I said, I'm not saying it's good. And I wish to God hadn't happened to you. But all I'm saying is, and again, I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm just asking you to trust me. You will find blessings in this. And now we joke about that. You know, we joke about it. Like one of the blessings that we talk about is I don't have time for bullshit. I don't have time for somebody who's, you know, not being upfront with me or not, whatever. I don't have the time for it because life is freaking short. And I have to say, this is going to sound weird, but I felt this way in some weird way when COVID happened. And the same way I felt when 9/11 happened, because that was shortly after I got my diagnosis. It wasn't that I was happy about it. Of course I was not. But for the first time, I felt like other people understood what I was going through every day. You know, there's this, it's just really hard I think that's the hardest thing about having a significant illness is not that you're dealing with something, it's just kind of lonely because nobody else wants to think about that. And I understand that, you know, nobody wants to think about, we all want to think we're immune from this stuff, but we're not. We all want to think we have control, but we don't. And when you realize that you don't have the control that you thought, it's scary and it's hard, but in some ways it's a relief because it's like, it kind of focuses you. It's like, you can't worry about the big shit so much because you don't have control over if somebody's going to fly a plane into a building down near where you work. You don't have control over a global pandemic. What you do have control over is your reactions and your actions after you find out about this thing. That's what you have control over. So it kind of focuses you. And it also focuses your priorities, you know? And I think that's, even though I would give anything to have, you know, take this thing back because so many people have lost so many people. But, you know, what we can do is find a way to make meaning of that and find a way to honor those people and to do something to change the future. So we deal with this better and we handle it better. And while we said that we were not going to mention his name on the show, which I won't, and hopefully we will not have a fucking idiot for a president. Sorry, I had to get political for a second because it's a travesty. It's just, you know.
People still overwhelmingly voted for him.
I know.
I mean, you know, I know where I live. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So what can you do? You know.
What can you do?
But like I said, like I've said behind the screen, that African American folks in this country have worked with folks that are a blueprint of how the occupant thinks and how he behaves, and folks who would support others who think and behave in the same manner as racists. for most of our careers. We've heard our grandparents come home and talk about it. We've heard our parents come home and talk about it. So the fact that in 2016, a whole bunch of people voted that in, well, there's no surprise there.
No, there's not.
Do you hope for better from your fellow countrymen? Sure you do, but you're also not shocked when they disappoint you, because how often does that happen?
Right.
A lot.
Yeah.
So,
you can't expect people to be different than they are, I kind of look at, I think I've told you this, Lashonda, how I look at life is like a jigsaw puzzle, and none of us have the box, so we don't see the picture. And all we can see is like our little section of the puzzle, and maybe a few pieces beyond that, and a few pieces beyond that. We don't have the bigger picture. So all we can do is focus on what we can do about what is in front of us. We have to pay attention to the big stuff, but there's only so much control we have over that. So what can we do? We can be kind to the people around us. We can listen to other people. We can hear their stories. We can try to understand their positions. We can do better about taking care of our fellow human beings. Because I think that those are the things that make the ripples eventually changed the terrain. And, I think saying that you're not going to try to do something because you don't have the power is just a cop-out. I mean, it's when people, I sometimes get grief from people because they say, they kind of accuse me of being Pollyanna-ish, like you're so hopeful. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm actually pretty dark and pessimistic, but I make a choice. Like I make a choice every day that I'm going to do my best to be hopeful, because hope to me, hope is different than faith. Hope is not some, Pollyanna thing. Hope is making a choice that in spite of evidence to the contrary, I think that the world can be better. And I'm going to do my part. And that's it. So what we can do,
Yeah.
You got to jump in, girl, because I've been talking too much.
The other thing that I feel like I am grateful for is it has to do with this whole time of not being distracted by trying to date and go out more and be a social butterfly. One of the things that I've done is turn that energy towards, building a brand for myself and for products that I love to create at home. And so that always comes with risks, So that's why one of the first times I put those things out into the world was with strangers. Folks who may or may not live in my building, but they don't know what I'm selling. They don't understand why I'm doing it. They just saw that I was doing it and had people try it and be like, oh my, that's really good. Like it works really well. You know what I mean? I have a couple of folks who got the first iteration of that and they enjoyed the first iteration of it. I can't wait to share with them the latest. And then I'm looking at developing additional items. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We don't have a name. We're not incorporated. I'm not announcing that right now because of trademark issues. Because people can reserve your trademark and then make you try to hold you hostage to pay for it. So
if you want that domain name, they bought it already, kind of thing.
Right. That kind of thing. And then they want to sell it to you for $100,000. It's like, no.
That's some kind of bullshit.
Keep it close. Keep some things you need to keep close to yourself. But yeah, that's major.
And let me
I
just
also
jump in.
cook more.
I'm just
Yeah.
going to jump in for 1 second, just so before you go off on that, because I just want to say I'm so proud of you. I think that's so great.
Thank you.
That's awesome. My little Lashonda entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur.
I had a crush on Ozzy. I had a crush on Ozzy's when I was in college, and I loved the Bee Gees and Andy. and I had this this economics professor, and who was Australian, and I would hold my breath all through the lecture, waiting for him to say entrepreneur. It was so sexy. Anyway, you were saying about cooking before I interrupted you with my dorky comments.
I love it though. I think that's good though. Girl, come
It's
on.
part of my
We
charm.
all had our professional crushes. I had one in high school. Girl, a scandal.
Okay, we'll have to have a crush episode.
Girl, we don't want to tell all of that tea.
We kind of started it when I talked about Scott Hart, didn't we? Yeah.
Who's Scott Hart?
That's the guy, remember I told you, with the record player, the Avon perfume. You forgot already?
Dude. There was a little dude though. He wasn't like a grown up and you were like,
no, but it was my first big crush.
That is the first big crush. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I can't honestly remember the names of my first big ones, but I do remember the names of the ones that were way out of range in terms of age.
Okay, well, I'm making a note. Talk about that later.
We don't want to mention all the names, girl.
But you were talking about cooking.
Girl, I've been cooking like crazy. And that doesn't mean that I cook often. It just means I cook in large quantities, like monthly. So I might cook a pot of a vegan curry. Like that's one of my favorite things. I love Thai curry. I love Thai basil in my curry, and I love vegan food. I also love beef, but organic and sustainably sourced. So I will completely sit up here and I will make a full vegan curry with like as many root vegetables as I can find, including the exotics, taro, yausha, all of that stuff. And then, like slap up some basil, you slap I don't know if people know that. The best way to release the flavor from basil is by slapping the leaves. So, and then put a whole bunch of basil at the end. Huh?
Lets the oils out.
Yeah. And then putting a whole bunch of basil at the end, and then like putting in like uncooked bok choy before I freeze it, so that when I open it, because I freeze everything. Like once I have cooked it, my whole house smells of it, and I've got to like somehow or another burn some sage or some Palo Santo to get the smells out. I don't want to eat that. It's problematic.
No,
I've tasted it through all the stages. I don't want to eat that for dinner. I usually have to have some backup plan, even if it's just kashi cereal and almond milk.
No, that's the thing, because when you're inhaling the scent of something, you're actually taking in particles of it, so it shuts down your appetite after a while.
Yeah,
I don't want to
eat it. Yeah,
I do the same thing. I cook and I had this great meal, and then I'm like, I'm done. I'm not interested anymore. It's depressing.
And that's why freezing things is so great, because you can just throw it in the freezer. But you have to suck out all of the air from I like to use the freezer Ziploc. I just said a brand name and they don't pay us for that. The freezer bags. And I like to fill it like 3/4 of the way and then press it against myself so that I can suck out all of the air, and then seal it and then stick it in the freezer. And the next time I cook, it'll be something else that is, a decent amount of something or another, unless I just don't feel like cooking the next night. But I cook in stages like that, I cook a pot of beef stew, or I will cook a, like I made lima beans a few weeks ago. I hadn't had lima beans since
your grandmother. It was your grandmother's recipe, right? Or your grandmother used to make them?
No, it wasn't. It was not my grandmother's recipe. It was the Lashonda recipe, because my grandmother would put some neck bones in there and would serve it with cornbread. But I could feel her being like, "You're not gonna eat that with some cornbread?
What's wrong with you?"
How do you eat this? I was like, I'm not going to eat it with cornbread. I'm going to eat it with rice, brown basmati rice.
Can I say something that I would like to be grateful for, since you were talking about this? I would love to be grateful for one of those machines. I want one of those sealer, those food sealer thingies. I would love to be grateful for having one of those. So if anybody wants to buy me a Christmas present, I really want one of those.
Seriously, or if you have one and you got a newer version and you're looking to get rid of it, please contact our dearest, lovely Angela.
Because I put my stuff in plastic containers, but I have a very small freezer. And so it's logistically doesn't fit well. So I'm like, if I can just put stuff in the bags and I could just stack them, that would be awesome.
That's what I do with the Ziploc bags, honestly. That's
But
exactly what I do.
And
but I think the freeze dried is better, though.
I think so too. And not to look at
not the freeze dried, but the hermetically sealed madness that machine does.
If you're taking the air out, then it's not going to get the freezer burn. But I'm going to look. I'm not to look the potential gift horse in the mouth. I live in, just in case somebody does want to give me one of those machines. It has to be one of the small portable ones. I live in New York. I have a tiny kitchen. I have no counter space. Because that's the thing I've been trying to figure out, because they have the bigger ones, which I think probably work better. But being on my kitchen, I have no counter space.
Yeah.
So I should probably get one of the, portable ones. Just putting it out there.
Why not?
Why not? Gotta ask. So how are we doing on time?
What's next?
This is about a half an hour. So
we got more to say.
We got more to say. I think we have more to say.
We got more to say.
I want to say what I'm grateful for. Another thing I'm grateful for. I am super grateful that my book is finally going to be out to people. Go out to people. I'm so excited. My Joaquin and the Pecky Birds. This has been a story that has been with me and Lashonda. And Joaquin, I have to share this story, Lashonda, because I'm going to embarrass Joaquin here. But I started babysitting Joaquin, who is the son of a very good friend. And when he was 5, and I think I might have said this already, our first conversation, we talked about whether the universe was expanding or not. He's 5. He looks at me and says, "Of course it is." I'm like, okay. So
that kid, man.
He was a serious kid. So part of my job, I felt, was to make him laugh. Because I'm like, dude, you gotta lighten up. You're really smart, and you're probably always gonna be the smartest one in the room, but you gotta lighten up, because you're not gonna have any fun. So I would tease him a lot. So I would also buy him ice cream a lot, Mr. Softy ice cream. So the one day I went
about that life.
Yeah. Well, see, I kind of do a quasi babysitter auntie thing. So kids need aunties too. So I said, he couldn't have ice cream this one particular day because we had to get home. His mom was going to take him out to dinner early. So I said, you can't get ice cream today. We can't get, and he's like, he starts pouting, and I look at him and I said, "Ooh, you better be careful. If you keep pouting like that, the Pecky Bird's going to get you." He said, "What's a Pecky Bird?" I said, "You don't know what a Pecky Bird is?" And I could tell he was trying to decide, do I want to stay mad or do I want to find out what a Pecky Bird is? And he said, "What's a Pecky Bird?" I said, "Pecky Birds are those birds that come along when you're pouting and they land on your lip and they peck at your nose." And he looks at me and he says, "That's ridiculous." And I said, "Yeah, but it's funny." So he became obsessed with this idea of Pecky Birds. One day he's in my kitchen. Lashonda is there. I will never forget this as long as I live. Lashonda is doing my dishes. Thank you, Lashonda. She always did my dishes for me. So she's got her back to me.
She was always feeding me copious amounts of crazy, delicious food. Don't get it twisted. I don't just show up at people's houses and do dishes for nothing. You got to feed me.
Yes, I like to feed people. So she's doing the dishes. Joaquin is doing his homework. I'm writing notes about the Pecky Bird story. And I said, "So what else about the Pecky Birds, Joaquin?" And he's saying some this or that. And then he says, "And this is not the end." And I said, "Oh, that's brilliant." And I wrote that. I said, "Joaquin, you may have just come up with the last line of the story." He said, "Don't write that." And I said, It's too late, I already wrote. He said, well, then erase it. I said, why? What's the problem? He said, he's about 8 at this point. He says, it's not a strong enough close. LaShonda's head, I will never forget this. LaShonda's head just spins around and looks at me and goes, did he just say it's not a strong enough close? So yeah.
You know, the last time I saw him, he was a tween.
He's like this tall now.
Yeah, he's extra tall.
Yeah.
And had very little to say. He was so talkative at one point, though. That's you got to savor those years, man. With with our communal nephews and things. You know, you really have to savor those years.
He probably says a lot to his friends, but doesn't talk to us because we're not cool
anymore. Right, because we're not cool anymore.
We're not cool anymore. So, yeah. So I've been carrying this Pecky Bird story around with me for a long time with encouragement from friends such as Lashonda, who have said, you got to make this into a children's book. And I'm like, but I don't draw. I'm not an artist. How am I going to? And they're just like, bullshit. This needs to be a book. And now it is. And coming soon to a bookstore near you. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the people that supported me, the people that pushed me. That's the thing you were talking about, Lashonda. Like when you have real friends will tell you, get off your fucking ass and do this. Mm-hmm. You know, real friends will tell you, like they'll tell you the hard lessons, the things that you don't want to hear. So I'm grateful for all of those people in my life and that I have this awesome story that that says something about people and about our neighborhood. Yeah.
Your neighborhood.
Well, it's your neighborhood still.
It used to be. I can't claim it anymore. It's just
now, but you know what I mean. I said, remember when I said
it's so different, man. I mean,
it's so different. It's different for me too.
You've got a situation where businesses full on change hands over there and they don't feel like they need to tell the community. That's different.
Yeah, we used to know all that shit when it was happening.
We used to know who everybody was. Now you don't know who it is. They could have. I'm like, oh, so that's Brooklyn Heights, like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or, well, maybe they know everybody in their neighborhood, but like, that's some, we were invested in the community when we were making this money, and now we need to make some more money and move on.
The joys of
I don't like it. I don't like it. And it's not a small, cute little neighborhood anymore because of that. Because if the business owners feel like it's okay to just dispose of assets and not have like a formal goodbye or anything to the community that paid their bills, that's problematic. I'm sorry. I know that that's going to be an unpopular opinion.
No, I don't. I agree with you.
But I don't care.
The problem is,
and don't call me about that. I'm talking to people. Do not call me about that. I don't care what you think about it. I'm voicing what I think because this is what we do.
The problem is that I think about when I moved to this neighborhood, and there was, as I like to say, there was nothing in this neighborhood of interest other than bad Chinese takeout and 99-cent stores.
Yep.
There were no coffee shops. There was one very scary bar. There was nothing. There was, vacant houses on my block. And then it started getting, we got a coffee shop. Things started shifting. It was still a little bit, but then we started getting some nice restaurants. And then there was this sweet spot. But that sweet spot was my sweet spot, and that's the thing. But then we moved beyond that. Other people's sweet spots were the point where I moved there. You know what I mean? It's like whether you're the victim or the perpetrator of gentrification depends on when you show up. And that's the problem. It's like Vox Pop, which is a restaurant now, and I missed when it was Vox Pop, but some people probably missed when it was a video store before it was Vox Pop. It's just, things change and we have to adapt. And that's why it's important to and that's why I think this gratitude thing is so powerful, because it's important to recognize when you're in the moment of the sweet spot, because it's going to change. It's not going to stay. It might be better, it might be worse, but it's going to change.
Yeah.
So take note of when things are really good.
God, I'm telling you, I miss being able to just on a Saturday with a neighbor, go somewhere neither of us have been, sit down. We don't see anything we like on the menu, order a charcuterie plate, have a cocktail.
I remember those days. They were nice.
Dressed nicely because Atlanta, or there were times when I would dress myself nicely in New York, but different life there than here.
Yeah. All right. So I think we should maybe do one more each and then maybe sign off. What do you think?
I think that's doable.
I'm grateful for this show.
Oh,
I don't know if anybody else
good,
is.
right?
Fun.
It's
for
fun.
Me. It's super fun. I love doing this with you every week.
It's literally us doing us shit. Like
I'm a Gemini. I get bored easily, and it's been 2 months, and I'm not bored yet. That's a long
literally
time.
us doing us shit. This is, and that's why. Like at one point, I did I don't think that it was actually just me. I think we both, during the conversation at one point, did the 200 or to the 20,000 feet above sea level view. And we're like, this conversation is good and might be useful to someone and funny, at least at times. Today there's parts of that were very serious, and that's because that's the nature of life, right? Some days you can laugh at things more than you can laugh at them on other days. But yeah, I agree. I'm very grateful for this show as well. Yeah, it's like our time that we share with other people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because our time is funny.
We're funny.
Because it was funny.
And I've said this before, but I always hear Rick in my head, quit laughing at your own material. But I'm like, but it's funny.
But it is funny. Don't listen. There's only some things that you should never listen to his voice for. This is one of them.
But see, Rick was funny that way because some of the things that he would give me grief about were things that he secretly agreed with me, but he just would never admit it. So.
One more thing. I'm showing a piece of ice out of my whiskey glass.
I thought you were going to say pomegranates.
Now, speaking of grateful, did you hear that in the background?
Mm-hmm.
Meow. If I did not have this one right here.
Meow.
Yes, baby.
Hi, Gustavo.
Gustavo, what's going on, baby? What's the problem in your life?
He's your baby.
Are you having a hard life, Dave? I hope you're not having a hard life, Dave. We had a nice nap and everything today. Okay, now he's petting himself on the chair. That little dude is the only hugs that I get because I don't want to get COVID. If I got COVID in Atlanta, no, there's no one here to take care of me.
Right.
Okay. I could die in my apartment. No one would know. Work would know first. But I'm just saying.
I'd be like,
I'm not taking the risk that a lot of people are more comfortable with because I'm just not doing that.
Yeah.
Because there's no one here. I mean, I have a cousin that's like an hour and change away, but she has her own family. She's not taking care. She's not here to take care of me. I'm here to take care of me. And part of taking care of me means not doing risky stuff. And so Gustavo is my source of hugs. And I don't know I don't know if I would have gotten through this period without him, honestly.
Yeah.
So he is, come here, baby.
He's a blessing.
Come here, baby. Come here. Come on up. Oh, there's the
Want to be on camera, Gustavo?
He's so fat. Look at the baby. He's so nice and fat.
Yeah, I miss my guys. He's
like, what is going on? It's the Gustavo
He's a big fur baby.
camera takeover. He's like, you see Auntie Angela? Say hi, Auntie Angela.
The look on his face is priceless. Like, I don't know about this.
He's like, I didn't sign up for this.
He's
Come
like,
on
where's
now.
my treats? I don't need this. I don't need this bullshit.
Yeah, he does not. No, seriously, he really doesn't.
All right, my friend. It was great spending another hour with you, or whatever, however much time this was.
Yeah, it was great spending it with you as well.
So send us in your, because if you don't send it in, just know we're going to be bugging you, because we know where you are, we know where you live, and we will find you. So share with us some things that you're grateful about over the past year. We didn't get time to talk about our intentions. We'll have to do for 2021. We'll have to do that next time. But we're grateful for you for listening and watching and subscribing.
We really are.
And we're really happy if you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, watch something else. Don't leave a comment. We don't need to hear that. All right.
Right, that part.
And until next week.
Until next week.
I'll let you say the outgo.
I'm Lashonda.
And I'm Angela.
And we are a Black woman and a white woman walk into a bar.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Love you, darling.
I love you more. Bye, baby.
Bye.